Hello, my name is Kelly Sinclair, and I'm Ken Sinclair's daughter. I represented him tonight because he couldn't be here. He's very proud and very pleased to have been presented with this award. And I know he would like to thank all of the people who worked hard to bring this event together and those that nominated him, and he would be truly touched that all the family members came here tonight to see this presentation.
Kenneth Donald Sinclair is recognized as a builder and contributor in the sport of tennis in Aurora and Canada. Ken Sinclair was born in Toronto January 14, 1930. This Aurora resident is recognized as an exceptional volunteer, entrepreneur, businessman, and visionary. As Ken was growing up, he played hockey. His parents were not the sort to push him. In fact, they discouraged him from playing NHL hockey because in those days there were only 6 teams. And when Boston wanted Sinclair to play for them, Ken's father, Donald Sinclair, felt it was important for him to finish high school instead. Ken still played hockey until the age of 65 and did some coaching along the way. Ken and Betty met in 1950 on a tennis court. Someone bet him 50 cents that Betty would turn him down if he asked her out. She didn't. He won the 50 cents and they were married on September 20, 1952. And they have 7 grandchildren, ages 20 to 27, and 2 great-grandchildren. When Ken Sinclair completed his education, he formed Sinclair Coburn Insurance Brokers in 1953 and the Sinclair Coburn Financial Group in 1998. He was known as a successful and honest businessman.
I think his motto in life was honesty was always the best policy. And he was always very honest in every dealing that he ever had.
Ken became a member of the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club in 1958 when Ken's parents gave Ken and Betty a membership, where he began playing league tennis. Ken volunteered his time and energy to contribute to the sport of tennis because he was not only a visionary, but knew how to follow through and make his plans and dreams happen.
We'll stick with something to completion. He'll get an idea and then he would just make things happen. He'd solve the problems along the way, and he always did it for the benefit of others too, and never really for the benefit of himself, although he loved to see that completion happen. But he always did it so other people could benefit from his experiences.
Ken became interested in tennis in his late 20s after their 4 children were born. Sinclair found that he was doing well and began beating his competitors and stepped up onto the international scene with a drive to win. Despite the fact that in those early years, there was little support for those playing as seniors for Canada. Because of his keen business sense, he was able to afford to travel to support himself in order to attend championships all over the world.
Very personal person. People liked to be with him, talk with him. He was always willing to play tennis with anybody that came along. He'd love to play with the juniors. He didn't mind playing with people that weren't as good as him. So he, his ability to join in and be a real people person, I think that was one of his main successes.
On the court, Ken always had the drive to win. As a tennis player, he was a 10-time Canadian Open singles tennis champion, 5-time Canadian Open doubles tennis champion for over 45s. In 1985, Ken won the European Indoor Open Singles and Doubles Championship for over 55s, and he did not stop there. He went on to win the Crawford Cup for the over 70 World Championship for singles and doubles in Cape Town in 2000. But more importantly, he passed on his love for the sport to others.
He never won much money, but he won great silver plates and trophies and things like that. So he always had good memories of that.
Ken was always looking to make things better for his fellow players. Ken and Ralph Ander brought together some partners to finance and bring the first tennis bubble to Canada after seeing them in Sweden. The bubble was erected in 1968 at the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club. It was a single-court bubble at the time. The club would not pay for the $20,000 bubble, so Ken raised money and supporters to fund it, with the understanding if the enterprise proved to be successful at the end of the season, the club would pay for it and take it over. This venture indeed proved to be successful, and tennis bubbles began to spring up all over Canada. The club has since replaced the original bubble with much larger bubbles as a result of their success to facilitate year-round use despite the seasonal changes. Ken served on the board of the club from 1971 to 1975, serving as president in 1973 and 74. For 35 years, Ken was involved with the Ontario Tennis Association, chairing many tennis events. He brought provincial and national tennis championships to the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club, and he was instrumental in the success of the Canadian Open, now known as the Rogers Cup, working tirelessly as chairman from 1969 to 1983. At first, the Canadian Open alternated between the Cricket Club and the Toronto Lawn and Tennis Club, until Ken initiated the building and negotiation of a long-term lease with York University as a representative of the Ontario Tennis Association and Tennis Canada. Ken's dream was to have a tennis venue that would attract international professional players and further the growing of the sport in Canada. The Canadian Open moved to York University's $1 million stadium, seating 8,000 fans in 1976. The stadium, part of the National Rexall Centre at York University and home to the Rogers Cup, has been renamed the Aviva Centre. In 1985, Ken chaired the tennis component of the Masters Games.
My father was a great visionary, and when he got a vision, he would go right after the vision, and he would continue with that vision until completion. So a couple of big things in his life that he sort of imagined in his mind and then completed the project. And one of them was the building of the club Timberlane.
Ken founded and built what was known then as the Timberlane Tennis and Country Club. Ken and his wife Betty moved to Aurora in 1985 while it was being built, and 2 years later, the club opened in 1987. The name of the club was inspired by the tree-lined lane leading to the property, which was once a Mennonite farm. Timberlane Athletic Club became the venue for many provincial and international tennis events over the years. Ken also initiated the Jerry Park Tennis Facility in Montreal.
He and his tennis partner Lauren Main played a lot of international tennis, and they were very well known around the world, actually. If you mentioned their names in the tennis communities, most people knew who they were. They may not have met them, but they certainly knew who he was. He brought that back to Canada, and I think in many ways inspired a lot of people to play tennis. Maybe not at that high competition level, but seeing how much fun he had with the sport, a lot of adults took up tennis later on in life, and certainly with some of the things that he had done with Tennis Canada and with the opening of Timberlane and some of the old all-Canadian camps, a lot of juniors had picked up the racket and played tennis and had good instruction and could carry tennis right through into their adult years.
Ken co-founded and operated a tennis academy in London, Ontario. The All-Canadian Academy trained elite junior players, some of which went on to achieve great things. At both Timberlane and the All-Canadian Academy facilities, Sinclair hired longtime friend Lauren Main as a teaching professional.
So it was a fun time for a lot of people there, and it was good for the communities where it was also, because it brought more kids in to be active and to learn the sport. He made some terrific friends around the world, and even to this day I trip across them every once in a while in various parts in the world. It's quite amazing, actually, and they always send back their always best regards wherever we go. And he brought Canada to the world. He would just keep asking questions, keep gathering information, and then he'd say, "This is a great idea, let's go ahead." And we would.
Ken and his longtime tennis partner, Lorne Main, are still the holders of more international championships than any other Canadian, not only in tennis, but in any other sport. Now as a father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, his sport legacy lives on. The family enjoys many hours of tennis together up at their cottage. With Betty's unfailing support, the encouragement from his father, Donald, and the friendship of his tennis partner, Lorne Main, Ken has enjoyed many years of joy and fulfillment, not only as an athlete, but as someone who helped to shape the face of tennis in Canada. In 1989, he was awarded honorary life membership to the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club in appreciation for his outstanding service to the club, and was inducted to their Tennis Wall of Fame in 2001. In recognition of the contribution as a builder in the sport of tennis, Ken was accepted to Canada's Tennis Hall of Fame in 1996 and received the Ontario Tennis Association's Distinguished Service Award in 2003. In May 2007, a tribute dinner was held at the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club in honor of longtime tennis partners Lorne Main and Ken Sinclair. And now we are proud to welcome Ken Sinclair in the Builder and Contributor category as a member of the 2015 class of inductees to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
Please welcome Chris Pridham from Sinclair Coburn Mortgage Investment Corporation to the stage to help induct Kenneth. And please welcome Betty Sinclair and Kelly Sinclair to the podium at the stage.
Well, I'm not Ken Sinclair. However, I'm here to represent my father tonight. That was a great video. I'd like to recognize Mayor Daw, members of the council, honored members of the hall, fellow inductees, donors, sponsors, the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, specifically Ron Weiss, members of Sport Aurora, guests, and family. As well as this time, I'd like to recognize another hardworking individual, Melanie Teague and her team, in all their efforts for organizing this evening. What a grand event, and I'm very pleased and honored to be here. Inspiration, challenge, competition, building futures, all of these are part of what sports can do for a family, a town, or a country. As well, these are some of the attributes which are part of my father's essence. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of my father, Ken Sinclair, who's unable to attend. Tonight, there are many people in the audience that know my father. For several of you here tonight, he inspired you in one way or another. He is a motivator of people, a believer in dreams, and just an all-around make-it-happen type of guy. Over the years, he used many ways and means to get things done. One method he used to get the best from people was sports, specifically tennis. He would play tennis with anyone who asked, no matter the level or their age. His thoughts were, if he could improve a person's level of tennis or their enjoyment of the game, that was a win for him and a win for that person. As you've seen in the video, he had many successes over the years. Many people benefited from his drive to succeed. This was not only in the sport of tennis, but also in the business world. He provided ways and means for people to excel. Dad was a respected competitor in the world seniors tennis circuit. and he and his doubles partner, Lauren Main, were a force to be reckoned with. Both of them competed for Canada and earned great respect personally and for their country. Those of you that competed against him over the years knew he was there to play the game to the best of his ability. Dad's winning attitude was well known, whether it was in business or sports. This winning attitude gave him the confidence to think on a larger scale. He could combine his love of sports, competition, and winning attitude with his business side. And long ago, he recognized that sports could be a positive driver in the community in many ways. During the years he was playing international tennis, he would meet a great number of people and then come home with new ideas or bigger and better dreams. I have to tell you, when he and my mother returned from holiday, he would be so full of new ideas, it would be difficult to keep up with them. From experience, I knew to get a good night's sleep the night before he returned to the office, because it was going to be very busy sorting out and implementing all of his new ideas and dreams. When he got an idea, he'd make it happen. Many of us that worked with him over the years knew about this, shall I say, ability to focus on an idea and see it through to completion. One of his best ideas was building Timberlane. He was able to bring a group of investors and build a tennis club with some of the best facilities in the country. It allowed many adults and children to learn how to play tennis, and those individuals who played at a higher level have a great place to play. Many people learned to play tennis, and they wouldn't have done so if Timberlane was not there to offer the court time. Timberlane employs people, reaches out to children, gets them active, a check mark on the list of the families to move to the town of Aurora, and a place for people to meet and talk. These were some of the ways that Ken gave back to the community. It gives him great pleasure to have been part of something like this. Timberlane had its struggles over the years, but no matter what the obstacles were, he would come up with a solution. So I know in his heart he hopes tennis will continue on a large scale in the town of Aurora. Dad, even to this day, is a great promoter of sports and the good it can do for an individual, your family, or community, or even his country. He was a builder of the sport of tennis, locally, nationally, and in the world. My father could not be here tonight. He has Alzheimer's. The disease has progressed to a stage where he wouldn't be comfortable with crowds. But even now, in his incapacitated way, you can see he wants to be the best he can be. There's honesty, fairness, and a winning attitude that shines through. I know Dad would like everyone to know he is honored and to be recognized by this award. For me, I will always try and remember the way in which he gave people opportunities so that they could be the best they could be, and the way he dedicated himself to projects. Thank you. Thank you, Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. It's been a pleasure.
We now officially present 2015 inductee Kenneth Sinclair.